Hey, this is Brian. I'm just going to jump in and record the Team xAPI profile presentation for the fall 2021 xAPI cohort. Welcome to the xAPI project briefing for Team xAPI profile. So the team included Laurel, Shatan, Judy, Henry Ring, Julian, Peter, and myself. Thanks to Shatan, Julian, and Peter for joining from across the pond. Julian and Peter are from Team Down Under, and Shatan is from Bangalore, India. We also want to thank Jason Haig and Duncan Wielder for joining us during some of our team sessions. And we're going to do a walkthrough of the primer. We're going to talk through slides or look at a demo of the xAPI profile server and review the xAPI profile reference list. The other thing I want to mention is that Judy Katz is leading part 2 of the project demo from this team, in that she was able to build a profile or begin to build a profile for her product, Pebble Pro. So first, let's just take a look at parts of the xAPI profile primer. This is a PDF document that was published as part of this project. It uses the human readable template that was provided by Jason Haig, and as part of his presentation to the xAPI cohort fall 2021. He actually did a presentation to our team that elaborated on the xAPI profile server. The other thing to mention is that Laurel, Shatan, Peter, Judy, Henry, and Julian Davis were all active members of the team and helped to form the document. At the bottom, we have thanks to Jason and Duncan Welder, who was able to join us and review some of the details of profiles. The current document is version 1-07, and this is the table of contents from that document. It's just meant to give you an overview, but we talked through some of the references. There's a section on how to read the document and what the purpose is, and then when to use a profile gets into what we consider to be a tiered approach, where you should look at implementation guidelines, the common reference profile, general xAPI profiles, and then profiles for what we call specific modalities, specific versions of interactions. And then finally, if you need to, beyond those, you define your custom vocabulary, and we recommend you consider publishing that custom vocabulary as a new profile. So there's a couple final sections: how to select a profile, how to use a profile. So this is a couple excerpts from the document, from the PDF. We wanted to talk about the references. One of the pieces you should be aware of is that some of these references are becoming outdated. So on this screen, we see the details of the references for xAPI profiles. Key to this is that the current view from the ADL is that the ADL's xAPI profile server is the current source of truth for xAPI vocabulary. This indicates that both Tin Can, shown as 1.2.1, and the ADL's vocabulary server, which is 1.2.2, are out of date. The idea being that 1.2.3, the ADL profile server, has the most up-to-date information and should be your first point of reference. Also of note, though, is the Torrance Learning Profile Flattener, which provides another view and supports additional elaboration of profiles, and this is currently featured in the CMI5 and video profiles on the Torrance Learning Profile Flattener. So first or next, we want to talk about the URL for, or location for, these documents. There's actually under xAPI cohort as an organization on GitHub, You go into team-xapi-profile, as you see in the blue on the top of the screen, or top of the screen grab, and then the two documents that are outputs from this or this team are the human readable template that Jason provided us, and then our document, the xAPI profile primer, dated 11/11/21, version 1-07, is available as the next document and available for download. And that document is actually an example of documentation using the human readable template. So in this section, we'll review details of the xAPI profile server. We want to talk about comparing the common reference profile with the online profile, looking at the profile server and human readable template, and then do a demo of the profile server. So first, we're comparing the common reference profile, or the online profile, as you see on the left-hand side of the screen, with the PDF that's presented on the right. One of the things to notice is if you go into the xAPI profile server and search for or locate the Navy common reference profile, the URL at the bottom under documentation, the purple URL ending in PDF, is actually a link to the file that is shown there on the right. It's referred to as a Navy common reference profile. This is U.S. Department of Defense and U.S. Navy document. So if we dive into the profile with, on the left side of the screen, the online profile, where we've clicked on the underlined tab for statement templates, and you can see that there's quite a bit of elaboration. And what I've done is compared this with the table of contents. The idea of the area indicated here, 2.2.1 files, is what we're going to elaborate by clicking on this section. And that actually takes us to the next screen, where we are looking at the reference profile, we're reviewing statement templates, and we've gone into the first entry, which is opening a file. So one of the key points, as we can compare and contrast that with what is stored in the PDF has that section 2.2.1 files. 2.2.1.1 is opening a file, and then we get into specifics about statement requirements. Each of these bullet points is a requirement for a statement related to opening a file. And this blue shaded section is an indicator that there is JSON, LD, or other code, but in this case it's JSON that is presented as part of that document. And one of the things I tend to want to tell people is, if you copy and paste out of a PDF or out of a Word document, you want to go through a JSON-LD validator, which is something you can search for online. You paste the code in and it'll inform you of errors that it finds. And one of the common errors in copying and pasting, either from PDF or from Word, is returns or other invisible characters being inserted as part of that copy and paste process. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing to talk about is the additional pages in the PDF document that aren't shown are elaborated within the online profile as well. By clicking these drop downs, you can see that there are determining properties. There are 2 of them indicated. There are statement rules indicated, as well as associated concepts. So each of these plus signs can be clicked on to dive into more details in the online profile. And Jason specifically mentioned this Navy Common Reference profile has been elaborated above and beyond what some of the other profiles on the ADL's xAPI profile server, as an idea of what can be done with it. And I mentioned earlier that the Torrance Learning Profile Flattener has CMI5 and video profiles that are elaborated sort of above and beyond what you'll find on this profile server. So you sort of need to use them in conjunction with each other. Next, we see the human readable template. On the left, you see this is a Word document, which is available for download, again, from the GitHub, as I showed you earlier. The Word document has sections within the document that we see on the far right. First of all, in the middle, we see the table of contents to show you there's some content in there that you can customize. And then the example on the right shows that the template includes formatting for headers, tables, and other styles to assist in building human readable documentation, including that blue code style that I mentioned earlier. The template itself has been used for the documents that the U.S. Navy has published around the adoption of xAPI, and again for the xAPI Profile Primer itself. Note that there are further details on the U.S. Navy documents within the Profile Primer. That document lists the URLs for other references, so you can use that as a starting point. At this point, we're going to look at the demo of the profile server. We're going to talk through the opening page. You can see the URLs profiles.usalearning.net, and you can see the slides showing that that first page. And the idea is you scroll down on that first page to the section called Published xAPI Profiles and click on Exploring Profiles. That will take you to the page shown on the right, a list of all the published profiles. So let's go ahead and flip over to a web browser and take a look at what that might look like. This is the page for the profiles profile server. Again, this is the opening page. If you scroll down here, you want to jump into Explore Profiles, and then you see some of the data at the top, but you can scroll past that. Take a look at all the published profiles. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see that there are currently 3 pages of current profiles, and the Navy Common Reference Profile is listed here. So I'm going to click on that and take us in. Again, I can click on this purple URL that I've visited already to pull up the PDF version. It's going to take a moment for that to load. While it's doing that, we can also navigate over here into statement templates, but you see there's also patterns and concepts. Typically the verbs are part of that concept section, but the other thing to be aware of is within the statement templates, some of those verbs are elaborated. So we talked about opening a file. We click on that. You can see this screen elaborates some of the high-level details, but then we can see an example statement. So there's actually, again, JavaScript within this, JSON within this section to pull out and use as a starting point. And this is actually a preferred place to pull that from. As I mentioned earlier, if you go into the PDF or go into a Word document, you're going to get some extraneous characters. It's better to come over to the statement templates section and copy this example statement from here. The other thing to look at is the determining properties. We're referring to the verb opened and object activity type of file for this particular elaboration for opening a file. The other thing to look at is the statement rules. Rules, it says above here, rules are restrictions on values for specific locations within statements that must be met in order to conform to this template. So in order to meet the standard for xAPI, as well as the specifics of the profile we are viewing, the Navy Common Reference Profile, you must include these restrictions. You must meet these restrictions, I should say. And then the associated concepts, we viewed these earlier. We're talking about opened and file, and there, in this case, there are no other related statement templates, but this would be an area to relate to other templates. We're actually viewing statement templates for opening a file. If it referred to another one, we could see that linkage down below. That's a demo, quick demo of the profile server. So I want to offer thanks to Team xAPI Profile, Laurel, Shatan, Judy, Henry, Julian, and Peter were all extremely helpful for this project. As I mentioned earlier, Shatan, Peter, and Julian were all over the pond and reached out across time zones to meet with us. Then we also wanted to offer thanks to Jason Haig and Duncan Welder, who met with us during the team sessions for Team xAPI Profile. And finally, thanks to Torrance Learning for hosting the xAPI cohort. Thanks to Megan, Matt, Jamie, and Jess. We appreciate it.